Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Going the Distance, the show where we talk about sports and music. On today's show, we've got some Raider firings to get into. The Giants fired their defensive coordinator. We'll talk about that. We have some Hall of Fame semifinals, which I'm very excited about. Some J.J. McCarthy news we're going to talk, and some scores from last week, predictions for this week, and the Who We're Listening To segment. So, before we get started, I want to thank you guys for joining me on the 103rd episode of the show. If you haven't done so already, hit the thumbs up button and like the video. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode when I post a video or a short. And share this video out, because the more you like the video and share the videos, the more I get pushed out and seen. So let's jump into it. So first we're going to talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. Well, on Sunday they lost to the Cleveland Browns. And that was Shadir Sanders' first start, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute and talk a little bit about Shadir. But after that game on Sunday, Chip Kelly, who was the offensive coordinator for the Raiders, and Bob Brinkle, who was the senior advisor to the offensive coordinator. I know, I didn't know coordinators needed senior advisors. I just thought the head coach needed it. Who knows? Who knew? I think sometimes they just make these positions up just to give people jobs. Who knows? But I'm kind of not surprised to see that coming, because Chip Kelly lost his mind a long time ago. He was great when he was with the Oregon Ducks. In fact, he coached Marcus Mariota, who's now backing up with the Redskins or the Commanders, when he came into the league. However, after that, after Marcus got drafted, Chip Kelly made the jump from college to the NFL, and he just couldn't get it done. Chip Kelly went to Philadelphia, and he did good in Philadelphia, and then he went to San Francisco, or vice versa, San Francisco and then Philadelphia. However that worked, he still lost his mind in the second round. I think it was Philadelphia he went to second. But in San Francisco, he just couldn't get anything done. He was fine the first year, and then after that, it was like they stifled him. So then he goes back to college and does some of these college games, college seasons. I think he was with Alabama, and then he was with somebody else. I can't remember. But then when Pete Carroll got the job with the Raiders, Pete Carroll brought Chip Kelly on as offensive coordinator. Well, as we know, the Raiders have only won 2 games this season, so I'm not surprised to see this at all. Moving on to more firings, the New York Giants fired their defensive coordinator, Shane Bowen. Again, is anybody surprised? I mean, the Giants were the first team to be eliminated from playoff contention this past week. They lost to Detroit in overtime, and they needed to win. The Giants needed to win, and then they needed several other things to happen to stay in playoff contention. Well, with 2 or 3 wins, how are you going to stay in playoff contention this late in the season? We're getting ready to move into week 13 of the NFL season, which I can't believe. We're going into week 13. But, it's time for changes. And I can see coordinators getting fired mid-season. I see that. Head coaches, that's after the season. Let's see how y'all do throughout the season. And if your season's still on the rocks, halfway through, and you want to fire them, give them the last half of the season and then let them go on firing Friday. And that's keeping it, nice in my opinion. So, the Giants may be trying something to come back, but who knows? they're still the Giants, and they're still they're still not gonna be great. And I know I've got Giant fans that watch this show, but we all have our opinions. Moving on to some more exciting news. Drew Brees and Phillip Rivers have reached the semifinals of the Hall of Fame in their first year of eligibility. This is absolutely fantastic. I like both these quarterbacks. I've been a fan of both these quarterbacks, and I think they both deserve it. In fact, first round, no doubt Drew Brees is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Phillip Rivers is a first ballot Hall of Famer, even though he does not have a Super Bowl ring. Now you can argue, how is he Hall of Fame eligible and not have a Super Bowl ring? Well, you could say the same thing about LT. You could say the same thing about Calvin Johnson and plenty of other people in there. It doesn't. Yes, the Super Bowl rings help the Hall of Fame case, and I get that. However, if you play good and you stay straight on the straight and narrow, what's the problem? Somebody like Phillip Rivers had the team around him. He had LT. He had Antonio Gates, who's another one that should have a Super Bowl ring, but he doesn't, and he's in the Hall of Fame. But back to Phillip. He had the team. LT, Antonio Gates. All these great players. And yeah, these players and that team made it into the playoffs, and they made it, I believe, into the division round. And then Tom Brady and the Patriots came, and the Chargers hit the brick wall of the Patriots and the Patriot dynasty. So, you can argue Phillip Rivers doesn't deserve to be in there. I'll argue the opposite point, that he does, because his playing proved it. Yes, he does not have a Super Bowl ring, but he still was on a level some of these others don't. You will never hear Jamarcus Russell get a Hall of Fame ballot. And why is that? Because he is the epitome of the number one overall bust. He didn't care about the game. He just cared about, getting the accolades. Sounds like somebody recent. However, the person I'm comparing him to actually went to the Super Bowl. Made an appearance. Actually semi-cared about it. Yeah, he wanted to be the main guy, but at least he made it to the Super Bowl. Jamarcus didn't even make it, and then when the Raiders cut him loose, well, why are you cutting me loose? Well, let's see. You've only won, 3 games in 2 seasons? You're doing all this. You've got all these players and all this talent around you, and you're not utilizing it. So, yeah, I can see where somebody like Jamarcus isn't going to get in, but Phillip Rivers made it to the playoffs, stayed consistent, loved the game, studied the game, and so he deserves it. Anyway, moving on, we're going to talk a little bit about J.J. McCarthy and the Minnesota Vikings. J.J. McCarthy, I believe this is his 3rd game back from a knee or ankle injury this season. It was the knee last year. I think it was the ankle this year. Excuse me, y'all. And now he's in concussion protocol, which means he might not play this week. So, that being said, who does Minnesota have as their backup now? Carson Wentz is on IR with a shoulder injury. He's out for the season. J.J. McCarthy's not going to play. Who are you going to go out and get, Minnesota? Who is your 3rd string quarterback? Don't know. Before we go any farther, I have a little bit of breaking news to give to you guys. The Buffalo Bills are signing Brandon Cooks, which I think is fantastic. Brandon Cooks is a fantastic wide receiver, and Buffalo needs a wide receiver after all the injuries they've been through. Now, Brandon Cooks was released by the New Orleans Saints several weeks ago, and he was looking for a team. Well, now he's found one in the Buffalo Bills. Something I do want to talk about that I should have mentioned last week, but we ran out of time. Rob Gronkowski has officially retired a New England Patriot. I think that is the best move he could have made. He was with the Patriots for years. He retired because his body wore down, just like Julian Edelman. Julian's body broke down, and he just couldn't. He said, "I'll play till the wheels came off." Well, the wheels came off for Edelman, just like the wheels that finally came off for Gronk. And Gronk, in my opinion, will be the second best tight end of all time. I will put I will say the greatest of all time. I'll put Tony Gonzalez at 2, and then, we'll see where Travis Kelce ends up. He might be somewhere in the top 5, who knows? But we're not going that far yet. But I meant to mention that last week, and I apologize that I didn't. A little bit of more breaking news. The NFL is suspending Panthers safety Trayvon Mowing 1 game for striking the 49ers wide receiver Julian Jenkins, I think is how you pronounce that first name, Julian, in the groin area on Monday night. Now, after the Monday night game, there was a scuffle between the Panthers and the Niners. Don't know what happened, but apparently Trayvon struck Jenkins in the groin, and the NFL's looked at it and suspended the Panthers safety. I kind of wish that was happened more often, that they suspended these players for doing it instead of going long times without it. I mean, Jamar Chase just apologized for spitting on the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver, Jalen Ramsey. Couldn't think of his name. I'm sorry, guys. But a couple weeks ago, I reported that Jamar Chase spit on Jalen Ramsey during the Bengals game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, now Jamar has apologized for that, and now, Jamar will be back Thursday night against Detroit, which we might get to see Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow together again on Thursday night, because Joe Burrow may be activated for Thanksgiving night. Moving on to the next story, I told you we'd talk about Shedeur Sanders. Shedeur got his first start last week. Shadeur's the third-string quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. Well, Gabriel's out. Now they traded away Flacco, so now it's Shedeur Sanders, Gabriel, and Deshaun Watson, which I know is a blast from the past, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that too. But Shedeur gets his second start this week again in their game. Deshaun Watson went to the game on Sunday against the Raiders. That's the first time we've seen Deshaun all season. Now, last season, Deshaun tore his Achilles and was out for the season. Well, then, during the off season, before this season, Deshaun was working out, doing physical therapy, something along those lines, and he tore the Achilles again. Well, now he's gotten better. He's gotten more, he's gotten more mobility. He can walk on it now. And he was at the game against the Raiders, supporting Shedeur Sanders. Now, this I think is a good move, because Deshaun is the main quarterback, we think. Now, he's there showing Shadir how to do stuff. Although let's hope he shows Shadir how to do the good stuff and not the bad stuff, because we all know what Deshaun's past is. He's had some legal issues, and I think they've all been resolved. But now he can't stay healthy, which is kind of a shame, because Deshaun was good when he was with the Clemson Tigers and won some national championships. And then the Houston Texans thought they could use Deshaun in a good way. Well, then Deshaun got all these allegations against him and was wrapped up with all that. And then Houston traded him to Cleveland, where now he can't stay healthy. So hopefully next season, Deshaun will be healthy enough we'll actually see what he can do. Okay, moving on, we're going to go through some Week 12 scores. What did you guys think of Week 12, y'all? I thought it was something else. So starting on Thursday night, we had the Texans defeat the Bills 23-19. Y'all, I was so disappointed in Josh Allen in that game. He went from but connecting and scoring and helping to score with 6 touchdowns the week before, to this week throwing 2 interceptions and looking like he was a rookie again. He needs to be more inconsistent, and he needs to learn to adjust more. Because you had a 5-5 team beat you, and now you've dropped to 7-4. You're still second in the division behind the Patriots. However, now it makes it harder in the playoffs. You have to go on the road, and luckily, fingers crossed, Kansas City doesn't make it into the playoffs this year, and they're on the outside looking in. But the Bills are like the 7th seed now, so they need to get their stuff together. Anyway, moving on to Sunday, we had the Bears defeat the Steelers 31-28. We had the Patriots defeat the Bengals 26-20, and Will Campbell was lost in that game to a knee injury. We're hoping it's nothing too severe. The Lions, now I'm not surprised with the outcome. I'm surprised of how it happened. The Lions defeated the Giants 34-27 in overtime. The Lions had to crawl back in that game because the Giants were ahead by like 3 touchdowns. And the Lions came back, roaring back, no pun intended, to tie it up in the final seconds, bring it into overtime, and then win in overtime. So congratulations to Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, and the Lions for defeating the struggling, actually bottom of the barrel, Giants. The Packers defeated the Vikings 23-6. The Seahawks defeated the Titans 30-24. Now, how great would that have been for the Titans to come back and win that game? How great would it have been? The Chiefs defeated the Colts 23-20 in overtime. Now, something's not right there, because the Chiefs were down like 20-9 going into halftime. Yeah, 20-9 going into halftime. And then the Chiefs come out and end up winning the game in overtime. They rallied from an 11-point deficit to beat the Colts. I mean, and then in that game they said, now Patrick Mahomes has beaten almost all the NFL teams. The only team he hasn't beaten is Kansas City, and that's because he plays for Kansas City. So he's beaten 31 of the 32 teams. So they're trying to put Mahomes and Brady up there together. It doesn't work like that, y'all. Anyway, moving on. I could talk about my disdain for the Chiefs all day, but I'm not going to put y'all through that. The Ravens defeated the Jets 23-10. The Browns defeated the Raiders 24-10. And after that Raiders loss, there's talks of voiding. Fans are wanting the Raiders to void Geno Smith's contract. But as I said earlier, I don't think the problem with the Raiders is Geno. In fact, I think I said it last week. The problem's not Geno. There's something more to that than it just being Geno. Anyway, moving on. The Jaguars defeat the Cardinals 27-24. In probably one of the best games of the week. No, I'm sorry. Before we get into that. The Falcons defeated the Saints 24-10. Now, moving on to the Sunday night game, which in my opinion was probably the game of the week, the comeback of the week. The Cowboys defeated the Eagles 24-21. The Cowboys were down 21-7 going into halftime. And in halftime, after halftime, they score 7 points in the fourth, 7 in the third, 10 in the fourth to win 24-21, taking down the Super Bowl champs and a division game. So that helps them in the division. Now, that being said, the Eagles dropped to 8-3, and the Cowboys improved to 5-1, which should be 6-5-1. 6-5, because that one should not be there because Dallas should have beaten Green Bay. But I'll take it. Cowboys won, beat the Eagles. I'm happy the Cowboys actually looked like a team this week. And then on Monday night, the Rams defeated the Buccaneers 34-7, and Baker Mayfield went out of the game in the second quarter with a sprained shoulder. Might keep him out against the Cardinals this week, but that's still up in the air. Let's hope it doesn't happen, but who knows? Anyway, moving on to some predictions for this week, and this week is a little different with it being Thanksgiving week. We've got 3 games on Thursday. We've got, at 1 o'clock on Fox, we've got the Packers at the Lions. I'm actually picking the Lions in that game. And that game's on Fox. And then on CBS at 4:30, we have the Chiefs at the Cowboys. I'm picking the Cowboys in that game because, as y'all know, I can't pick Kermit the Frog and the Chiefs. And that's at 4:30 on CBS. And then at 8:20 on NBC and Peacock, we have the Bengals at the Ravens. I'm picking the Ravens in that game, even though I think everybody's saying Joe Burrow's going to be back, Jamar Chase is going to be back, and if those two can connect, that's going to be one heck of a game. But those are the Thursday games. And then on Friday, Black Friday, we have the Bears at the Eagles. Both teams are 8-3. And, with the way the Bears have been playing, I'm picking the Bears in that game. I know I've got some Bears fans that listen to this show that are going to be very happy with that pick. Moving on to Sunday, we have the 49ers at the Browns with Shadir Sanders' second start with the Browns. But I think in the end, I'm going to pick the 49ers. The Jaguars at the Titans in a division game. I'm picking the Jags. We have the Texans at the Colts, another division game. I'm picking the Colts. We have the Saints at the Dolphins. I'm picking the Dolphins in that game. We have the Falcons at the Jets. I'm picking the Falcons. We have the Cardinals at the Buccaneers. I'm picking the Buccaneers, even though Baker Mayfield's status is up in the air. That means Teddy Bridgewater will start for the Buccaneers, and we have Jacoby Brissett starting for the Cardinals because Kyler Murray's on IR. but I'm still picking the Bucks. We have the Rams at the Panthers. I'm picking the Rams in that game because Matthew Stafford's playing at MVP level. So, and the Panthers, even though they're looking better, I still think the Rams are going to win that game. We have the Vikings at the Seahawks. I'm picking the Vikings in that game. We have the Bills at the Steelers. I'm picking the Bills. We have the Raiders at the Chargers in a division game. I'm picking the Chargers. And then on NBC, Sunday Night Football, we have the Broncos at the Redskins or the Commanders. I'm picking the Broncos in that game. Even though I like what the Redskins or the Commanders are doing, I still think I'm going to pick the Broncos in that game. And then on Monday night at 8:15 on ESPN, we have the New York Giants at the New England Patriots. Now, who do y'all think I'm going to pick in that game? Let's see. Oh, that's right. I'm picking the Patriots in that game. Even though the Giants have been our kryptonite this whole, since the Super Bowl, I'm picking the Patriots because the Patriots can do this. The Patriots aren't going to let the Giants beat them this time. Of course they're not. This is a whole new Patriot team. Drake May's going to go out there. They're playing at home. They're going to go out there, and they're going to show the Giants that we're not pushovers now. Mike Vrabel's going to go out there and say, you know what? They've beat us almost every time we've played them since the Super Bowl. No more, never again. In fact, I think all that was because Bill Belichick had a soft spot for the Giants because he coached for the Giants years ago. Well, that's not the case this year. Mike Vrabel was a Patriot. He never had anything to do with the Giants, so go Patriots. So that's all for sporting news and scores and predictions. So now we're going to move into the Who We're Listening To segment. And who are we listening to this week? We're listening to Wilder Woods. Now, who was that, you might ask? Some of y'all may have heard of Wilder Woods, but didn't know much about him. Wilder Woods is the side project of Need to Breathe's lead singer, Bear Reinhardt. Now, Need to Breathe is one of my top 5 bands of all time. I honestly can't recommend Need to Breathe enough. I think they're fantastic. Their sound is great. I've seen them live in concert twice, and they put on a great show every time. So the fact that Wilder Woods is Bear's side project, I think is fantastic. They're a pop band from Greenville, South Carolina. They actually formed in 1998. I found out about them around 2022, 2023. And I found out about that about 2022, I'd say. Because that's when I saw Need to Breathe the first time. And then once I looked up Need to Breathe, I saw Bear and saw he had that side project. So that's when I started listening to Wilder Woods and Need to Breathe more and just learning that type of music. So their debut album was self-titled, Wilder Woods. They've had 3 studio albums because Bear works mainly with Need to Breathe. They've had 23 singles, 8 music videos, no live albums, no compilation albums, and their new album is Curioso, which came out in 2025. But I would say out of the 3 albums, my favorite is Fever and Sky. That's, has a great sound to it, and Bear sounds just fantastic on everything. Need to Breathe, Wilder Woods, whatever he's doing, he sounds good. So for this week, I want you guys to listen to Fever and Sky. And let me know what you guys think. And as always, drop in the comments who you guys are listening to, what genres, what artists, what bands, and what you guys thought of the show. And who's your favorite sports team and favorite sports league? Is it the NFL? Is it baseball? Is it Formula One? What is it? Let me know, guys. But that's about all I've got for this week. I want you guys to have a great rest of the week. Have a happy Thanksgiving. I want you guys to know I'm thankful for each and every one of you guys. And we will be back next week with another episode. Have a great week, and God bless.